All right. What if? What if Reginald is a diplomat who is a recently widowed single father of 3 girls, and his brother-in-law and his best friend move in to help him raise the girls?
How about this? Reginald is a diplomat, but he's also the son of an army officer who moves to Bayside, California, and he befriends a preppy, a cheerleader, and several other zany characters. And they all go to this restaurant called the Max.
Alright, how about this? Reginald is a diplomat from West Philadelphia, born and raised, and a bunch of guys that were up to no good started making trouble in his neighborhood. So then his mother shipped him off to live with his aunt and uncle on the West Coast.
This could get complicated. Alright, what if Reginald was a diplomat who was also a stand-up comedian, and he had like 3 wacky friends, and they did absolutely nothing, and then later, one of his friends goes on a racist rant?
What if Reginald was a diplomat who was a young Republican and he lived with his hippie parents, and later he got like Parkinson's disease, and he was like, you know, he's always jiving and stuff in front of Congress for more money for it.
How about Reginald's a diplomat, but he's also a teenager growing up in the 70s who hangs out in his parents' basement and smokes a lot with his friends, and one of the friends could be Ashton Kutcher.
Alright, how about this? What if Reginald was a diplomat who ate cats and also was an alien, and the family he lived with called him Alf for short?
How about Reginald is a diplomat, and he's also an African slave named Kunta Kinte, and he doesn't want to be called Toby or Reginald, and he gets his foot chopped off.
What if Reginald was a diplomat who was a GI named Joe, whose name was still Reginald, and he was still a diplomat?
How about this? How about Reginald's a diplomat, but he's also somebody appointed by a national government to conduct negotiations and maintain official economic, political, and social relations with another country or countries?
No, that's been done before.
Yeah, that's Scrubs.
How about this? Reginald is a diplomat, but he's also a Wayne's brother.
Alright, what if Reginald is a diplomat who's also a single father who becomes a male housekeeper working for a single mother in Greenwich, Connecticut, and the grandmother lives there, and she's really hot and seductive, but in reality she's really not, but the writers just want you to believe that?
How about this? Reginald is a diplomat, but he's also a promiscuous single female living in New York City who writes a weekly column and hangs out with 3 other promiscuous single females, and her face looks like a human foot.
Alright, how about this? Reginald is a diplomat who's also a lawyer to this black man who's accused of raping this white woman in the 1960s segregated South, and his daughter is saved by Boo Radley.
What if Reginald was a diplomat who wore these really goopy thick glasses and a red and white striped shirt with a stocking hat that matched it, and just loved to go to these really crowded places that made it hard to find him?
How about Reginald's a diplomat, but he's also this young girl living in 1940s Europe, and in order to escape Nazi persecution, she lives in her attic.
How's it end?
I don't know, I haven't finished yet.
How about this? Reginald is a diplomat who's also a car that also talks, and he and the guy who rides inside him like solve crimes. And then that guy later helps tear down the Berlin Wall by looking for freedom.
How about this? Reginald is a diplomat, but he's also a monkey who's friends with a man in a big yellow hat, and he's very mischievous.
Alright, what if Reginald is a diplomat on vacation with his wife and kids, and they get on a game show, and they call themselves the Blue Bombers, and they battle the Red Rockets, and they always opt for the physical challenge?
What about this for an idea? Reginald is a diplomat who's also a caveman. In the modern world, he used to sell car insurance. But now he just hangs out with, like, other caveman friends.
That's fine.
Let's just do that.
Alright. For I am Reginald Higginbottom, ambassador to Estonia.